Hi guys, it's Rosa here. I hope you're all having a good day. So the two patterns I have been absolutely loving this month are the Paola turtleneck top by Names Clothing, and the I just saw somebody outside. And the second is the Moneta dress by Colette Patterns, which I was inspired to buy by the Moneta Party, organised by Elle, Abigail and Rachel, whose accounts I will link down below, and I mentioned the Moneta Party in my February favourites. But I tried the Moneta dress and I absolutely loved it. And so what I've been doing is working on some hacks, some Paola hacks. So it's not actually pronounced Paola, I've learnt this, I say it right now, Paola, there you go, the Paola top. I'm very sorry, definitely getting that completely wrong. Apparently it's a version of the name Paula, so the Paola top. And somebody pointed that out to me and I stupidly forgot until just then, so now I'll say it right, Paola. So I'm going to share with you first my classic versions of the Paola and the Moneta, and I'm going to share with you some hacks which I've done to get to a different point. So let's start off. I'm going to put it on a coat hanger for you with my very first Paola. Now I've made a couple of polo necks this year, well not this year, but you know this season we should say, a couple. And this is definitely my favourite one. This is my favourite pattern. This is the one I'm going to use from now on for many reasons. It has the perfect polo neck. There it is. This is my one made with Fabricland jersey. It's a good length. It's quite short actually. So if you're a tall person, this is the right length for me. I'm 5'4". So if you were taller than that, you might want to add an inch or two onto the bottom. But it's just a really nice close fit without being tight fitting. So this is my first Paola turtleneck. Absolutely love it. And I love the colours on this Fabricland jersey. This jersey was $3.99 per metre, and I used I think 1.2 metres to make this top. So that's my first Paola top which I made. It's super easy to work with. I didn't do it in an hour, as I said before, but it took me about 2 hours-ish. I made the whole thing on the zigzag stitch on my sewing machine, super easy to do. So once I'd done that, I started to look on Instagram. Like how many of our inspiration stories start like that? So I was looking on Instagram, and so there are a lot of tops at the moment which I've noticed in the shops which have a short collar, like a turtleneck or a polo neck, and they have a frill which goes underneath. And I actually bought a polo neck before Christmas, like a polo neck jumper from H&M, which had a little frill around the neck, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. So I decided to have a go at drafting my own frill to go around the neck of the Paola turtleneck. So I'm going to put it onto the coat hanger so I can show you. I'm not going to change into everything today because it's actually quite cold, so sorry. And also you may have seen these on my Instagram already. In fact, you pretty much definitely have if you follow me, because I've been showing them quite a bit over there. So I'll pop it up here. Here you go. So this is my first attempt at making a frill neck Paola top. So if you look, the rest of the top is absolutely identical. This is actually also Fabricland jersey, because I bloody love Fabricland, as we all know. Again, I think $3.99 per metre, but I bought this quite a long time ago. I've had this fabric in my stash for about a year before I actually got off my butt and did something with it. So yes, it's a lovely, I'll put it up nice and close so you can see. It's a black floral. As you know, I'm really loving my black florals at the moment. And it's got these little daisies all over it. Is that focusing? I think it is. Anyway, and then I made this little frill to go, I'll just pull it back so you can see, all around the neckline. And it was actually really easy to do, so I'll just quickly explain how I did it. What I did was I got, first of all, a tape measure, and I measured the base of the collar. You may also notice that I made the collar a lot shallower on this one. That's really easy to do. I'll show you what I would do to do that first, actually, and then I'll explain how I made the frill. So I've got my pattern here, my Paola pattern. So if this is the collar piece here, so this along here, now I got very confused when I was making my collar shorter, so I'll just explain quickly how this pattern piece works. When you look at it like this, you would presume it would go this way around and wrap around your neck, but it actually doesn't. It goes this way round because, and you know that because it has this line along here, which is the fold line where you fold it down, and it says at the bottom stretch, and that means that you stretch this edge to fit around the neck hole. So if I was to want it half the depth, so instead of being this deep, which it is quite a long neck as you can see from here to here, I would just fold it in half like that, and then again just cut it normally on the fold, and then it would end up being like that. This I did even smaller than that, even narrower than that. So it's really up to you to decide how wide. Of course, the thing that has to remain the same is the depth around the bottom of the neck. Otherwise, it might be too small and you won't actually fit it over your head. But you can reduce the length very easily. To make the frill around the neck, you need to use, there's a little bit of maths involved. So I'm going to talk you through the maths, and I'll put the numbers here on the screen so if I shuffle over a little bit. So the first step is to measure the neck hole. Okay, and once you've done that, you need to multiply that by 2, so double it. So that's quite easy. And that's because if you don't have enough extra, you won't get any gathers. So that's what I did for step number 2, is I multiplied it by 2. And then I just decided how wide I wanted the neck frill to be. And then I doubled that by 2, because of course it's folded, and added a seam allowance on to both measurements. And then I cut myself basically a long rectangle, which is twice the length of the neck hole and double the width that you want your frill to be, plus a little bit of seam allowance. But let's be honest, you're working with stretch seam allowance. You know, it doesn't have to be quite as exact as if you were doing this with a woven fabric. And then I simply gathered it up onto clear elastic, which is a technique which I learned by making the Moneta dress, which I'll get to in a minute. And then I pinned it onto the collarband, pinned it all around the collar, and then just attached the neck as usual. So really you just sandwich your frill in between the top and the collar. So in between the top and the collar, you will just put your frill, which you then pin all the way around the neck, and then continue as per usual with attaching the polo neck. So that's what I did to attach the frill. I hope that made sense. I hope the maths all make sense. It was really simple. I'm probably making this sound way more complicated than it really is. Basically, you cut a rectangle twice the length of your neck, gather it up onto elastic, and then sew it in between. So yeah, I hope that kind of makes sense. And yes, so that is my Paola. So yes, we've got 2 Paolas here, and I love them both dearly. They're both really well loved and well worn in my wardrobe, both black florals. And the dress I'd like to show you is the Moneta dress. Now, as I just mentioned, in the Moneta dress, in making my Moneta dress, I learned how to gather jersey fabrics onto clear elastic, and it's incredibly simple to do. You basically stretch it as you sew, and then when you release, it bings, and you get these beautiful gathers, which I have done all the way around the waist of my Moneta dress. Now this is also fabric land jersey, because there's a theme in this video. Again, $3.99 per metre. I think I actually had 2 meters of this, because that's what it said on the pattern. I ended up with absolutely loads left over. You do not need a lot of fabric to make this dress. I would say you could easily get this if you're a size, I made the size small, out of, I don't know, maximum 1.5 meters. And yeah, it turns out really well. I love this dress, I love this technique, and I want to make more than one. And also you can make it out of a small amount of jersey, and you make them incredibly quickly, which is of course quite satisfying. The only alteration which I made, you can see I obviously made the version with the 3/4 sleeve. I made it all with a zigzag stitch. I didn't actually use my overlocker. Is I added a neckband. Now on the pattern it just says to just fold it under, and I don't like jersey neckbands like that because I find they stretch out and stuff. So I just cut a neckband and attached it by measuring the neckline, and I think I reduced it by about 10-15% and cut my band then and just attached it. And I think it worked out really nicely. But yes, this dress is super, super cute, and I love it. So that kind of brings me on. So I would highly recommend the Moneta pattern. It comes up true to size. I would say I usually wear a lady small, and it came out pretty much fine. And I love the technique of using that elastic to gather, the clear elastic to gather up your skirt. I think that's a really sweet technique, and it worked really well. So the last thing I've made this month is my Paola-Moneta hack. I'll stand up and show you so you can see. It is a polo neck, or more of a turtleneck really. It's got a very sort of small neck here with a frill. So it's the Paola top, the Paola sleeve and bodice, Paola collar, but obviously reduced massively. I've added on a frill. I attached it to the Moneta skirt. This is jersey I got off of eBay. Again, this is jersey from my stash. I don't actually remember where I got it from, so I'm really sorry. I'll have a look through my eBay though and see if I can find a link and leave it down below, because if I look through what I bought before. It's really lovely, slinky jersey, and I'm sure I saw some other people on Instagram have made things with the same fabric, so you can probably get it in loads of places. It's got giant pansies on, which is really fun. And yeah, I feel quite cool in this dress. I love that it has the high collar. It feels kind of trendy. Anyway, so let me explain how I did that hack. So I obviously just used the Moneta skirt pattern absolutely straight. I used the Paola sleeve absolutely straight. The only bits that I changed were the collar. I made it a lot less deep, which I've already explained how to do that. So yes, you literally just fold it or cut it. Oh, if I don't cut because I don't want to ruin the pattern, but you could always trace off and then cut, and then you'll have the right depth for your collar. That's really easy to do. But the bodice, of course, has to be changed quite a lot. So this here is the front of the Paola pattern, which looks like this, and I cut it to the size 10, which is the 4th size. And what I did, as you can see with this pink pen, is I traced onto the piece the shape of the Moneta blouse, the Moneta bodice. So I lined up. It's not exactly the same shape, so you kind of just have to line it up at the points which match best. So I lined it up with the shoulder and the underarm, so we could make sure that the side seams on the back and the front were exactly the same length. The neckband, the neck hole rather, doesn't obviously match up because it's the difference between a polo neck and a scoop neck. And this line is actually a different angle, the shoulder seam on both pieces, but that doesn't matter because it's jersey, it stretches and it wears. So once I'd done that, I simply folded it along those lines which I'd made. Dun, dun, dun. But of course you could just trace the whole thing off. There's nothing to stop you from doing that. I folded it along those lines like this. There we go. And I used that to cut out the bodice front, which is pretty much exactly the same. Well, it should be because this is the same dress. I just did the same on the back, so I'll show you the back again. And it was incredibly easy. So this is the back. Again, lined it up at the points which matter, the underarm seam and the shoulder. And then you can see it pretty much lines up with where the waist is on the Paola top as well, but it comes in a lot narrower. You can see how much narrower it needs to be. That's because the Paola is like a comfy, slightly slouchy jumper. Not slouchy, but you know, not tight fitting, just slightly more ease than the Moneta. The Moneta is quite tight around the waistline because it has to be. It has to support the weight of all of the fabric which you've gathered up. So it's quite significantly narrow. It's probably about 5 or 6 inches narrower than the Paola top would have been. And this is it. So those are my 2 favourite patterns of the month. And they must be because I've made 4 garments from the same 2 patterns, the Moneta and the Paola. I would highly recommend them. I hope these hacks made sense to you. I hope that you find it useful. And who the hell doesn't like adding frills to everything? I don't know. It's so much fun. I'm like loving frills in quite a big way at the moment. So frills on necks, frills on sleeves, frills on trousers. I've seen that and I'm like, that, just gonna give you a heads up guys, that might be happening in the spring. I might be making frilly trousers. Who knows? Thank you so much for watching guys. I will see you again very soon. Please do give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and click subscribe for new sewing vlogs every week. I'll see you again soon. Bye!